Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Feeling so much better today. And hi, if you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I'm only saying that because just coming in, I feel so much better than I did yesterday. If it's the first time you've ever met me, how are you going to know how I felt yesterday? I walked a great distance yesterday. I gave myself the gift of a little adventure, seeing it was full eclipse day, and it's an event that'll might not ever come across my path again. And it's in these small adventures when we have these realizations that we're just not connecting enough to the things that really, I don't know, help us move along in our own evolution. Medicine is all around us, and we're so eager to drop our health in somebody else's hands to take care of those matters when, in all honesty, I think we should take more of the reins for ourselves because just for myself, over the decades, over the 6 decades, and it's taken me a while, but I'm getting to realize how my body works and what things I can eat that will serve me well, those things that I can't eat that don't serve me well or may have served me okay at one point, but as we mature, our bodies change, right? The things that work for us 20, 30 years ago are not working for us now. So it's always a matter of adjustment in our life. Okay, so we're going to get to the topic. You guys know that we got the word this week, resilience. I thought I'd tie it into, well, I know it was an important possession of my father's. He kept it on the wall beside his chair. I am my father's daughter, so if you can kind of imagine, my father's experience in a not a similar way because he was very different than me, but in his character and in his movement and in his love for history and his love for mother nature and his love for learning, his love for mindset. He was such a kind man, and I don't truly think I would be here right now without the contribution. And none of us are perfect. I come to this platform and Instagram, sharing my story. But my story is private, right? And it's full of bumps and misunderstandings and understandings and jealousy and resentment and narcissism, right? A lot of highly sensitives, a lot of movement without understanding that we're making movement, a lot of limiting beliefs that just been passed down from one generation to the next. And lucky me, right? 2 generations in a row that I get that opportunity to possibly, right, change epigenetically some of those problems that might have been stopping my family from really truly making some major headway in grounding in our evolution, in our movement forward. So, getting back to what I said, I have in my hand one of my father's favorite possessions, if not one of the most important ones, but it was one of his favorite quotes. And my dad loved quotes. He had hundreds and hundreds of them that he had memorized, right? He had an answer for everything. But this quote here is, life is what happens to us while we are making other plans. My father passed away at 47 years old from congenital heart disease, a disease that was diagnosed in him before he was even an adult. Having the opportunity to have a family was probably not on the plate. It wasn't something that he expected. It was something that he dreamed of, and he absolutely delved into his role as a father. And, I wish I had been paying attention more, but I wasn't woke to these ideas like I am now. I wish as an adult that I could sit down with him with a cup of tea because he loved his tea, right? Sit with him across the table with a cup of tea and have truly, truly one of those conversations, one of those conversations that I know that, right, that with the understandings that I have now, I would know exactly what questions to ask, right? It's the kinks in our lives, and it's those unspoken truths, and it's the characters we bring to the table to present to the people that we surround ourselves by, right? That, if you want me to look at you like you're the hero, I'll do that, right? If that's the person that you're representing and I trust you and believe in you, I'll follow you to the end of the earth because, right, you're going to be my hero. Because I wouldn't be around you unless I appreciated those magnificent things around you, right? But in our naivety, na- right? Naivety. That sometimes, because we love so much, because we care so much, because we possibly don't think that the people around us can hurt us, right? That would hurt us, that would want to hurt us, right? That we leave ourselves sometimes as open spaces to hold, right? Sometimes the problems, sometimes the pain, sometimes the heartbreak, right? Of others. And that's our nature as highly sensitives and as empaths. And we gladly do that. But when we recognize the intent behind it, right? I learned early through my experience the intent behind my relationship with my mother. But that relationship with my father was the only nurturing, the only love that I had, the only thing in my life that I thought I could trust. I believe I could trust my father wholly, only because I understand that he was a human too, and he was on his own journey, and he didn't have all the answers, just like I didn't have all those answers. And I bet you in this moment, as much as I would be loving to sit across the table from him and having a cup of coffee, I do believe he would appreciate that same experience with me. He might have lived his whole life, right, alone in that. I don't know. It's something that's curious, but if we pull it right back now to the main branch on this word that we had of resilience, it ties in nicely with this. Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. Hello, Nancy. I spotted those hearts right away. Thank you so much for popping into my lives. But that's the thing. Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. And life has a tendency to dish out some pretty heavy lessons. And not just lessons every once in a while. If you're sitting here in this moment, I bet you got lessons going on in your life consistently all the time. It's just a matter of what do we want to pay attention to? What do we want to get our hands on? What do we want to work with? What do we want to accept? What do we want to toss off to the side? And what do we just want to put on a shelf for another day, right? That's our evolution. As humans, that struggle of life offers up opportunities for us to build that backbone, to build up that evidence that we can take on whatever. That life doesn't have to dish out popcorn and roses and chocolate and bright sunny days every single day, right? Because we do understand life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. So, my only duty, my only responsibility to me, my only accountability to my life and to the people that surround me and the right is that idea to buffer what might be uncomfortable in that movement of my life, but also to enjoy the ride, to take it in, to question the experience, to make sense of it, right? And as we do, right, we become the wise old owls and we're able to pass those experiences around a little bit, right? Because, lots of lessons in life are difficult, very difficult, right? Thank you, Nancy, for popping in, right? And that's exactly right. And Nancy is my jack in the box. She pops up faster than anybody else when life hits her, when life when life backs up on her, and it's consistent. And that's with everybody. But the thing is, each one of us, because we're having a different experience, we're going to have a different experience, right? It's because what's happening to me might not be happening to you. It may. It may look differently, but it still might be an experience that is similar, right? That's that resilience, right? Me and Nancy, and like I said yesterday, you know, I'm not going to say with pride I would love to, right? Outbeat Nancy on that skill of resilience. You know what? Nancy can have that badge. Nancy wants it just as much as I want it, which is probably not very much, right? Because we would all like to have that cozy life, that life without problems, the life without hiccups and surprises. But what do we learn out of that, right? With every hiccup, with every disaster, with every failure, we have an opportunity to delve into it a little bit to see where we went wrong in that or where somebody else went wrong in that. And God forbid somebody else went wrong with that when they were working with Nancy, because Nancy works in those lessons. She's deep into those lessons and you won't have a chance, right? You won't have a chance because she's passionate about taking care of herself, taking care of her rights, taking care of her own well-being, because she doesn't have a lot of people in her life that are in this moment looking out for her well-being. We all do the best that we can. But sometimes it's just in that sitting with somebody as they're having their experience, right? Sometimes it's just a shoulder, a kind word, or allowing them to know that you're there if you need them, right? And I know Nancy's there if I should need her. And Nancy knows I'm here if she should need me. And we're always in need. We're always in need. But not every moment are we surrounded by those resources in what we need. So we should be prepared to do the very best by ourselves as we possibly can. And if we can't, it might turn into a disaster, a hiccup, a failure. You might surprise yourself and do something absolutely magnificent that you didn't believe that was at all possible. And in doing that, you allow yourself an opportunity again to make a choice, right? And store that information for future use or in the use that, right, you just succeeded with it in the moment and it becomes a lesson, right? But at the same time, we're talking about we just can't have those disasters and hiccups and failures in our lives. There has to be dazzle and maze and joy, happiness, fun, right? There has to be contemplation, and contemplation doesn't sit with the right. Well, it shouldn't anyway. If we do it right, it shouldn't be sitting in the difficulties, but at the same time, doesn't really afford itself in the dazzle and amaze because usually we're so involved in the moment, we're not taking it in as an experience. I'm getting better and better at taking in my life as a lesson. I didn't recognize it for what it was because I was so involved in it. And I think that's okay to be involved in it, right? Because that's the movement, right? I just don't want to be in contemplation. I just don't want to be stuck in my house. I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? And sometimes that's my own self sabotager, my own worst enemy, right? I can throw those hiccups in my life just to do something a little bit different, just to mix the pot, right? But I'm making other plans, right? Those plans for my trip coming up in September, the plans for my future. And I'm 62 years old. I should be making plans for my retirement. It's not even on the table. Retirement's not even on the table. And I think when I retire, well, I know when I retire, right? This is still going to be on the table. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. Why? Because I've changed. I've brought experiences in my life, right? I've made my plans and I've been disappointed in what fails me, what trips me up, and I've rejoiced in the amazing things that have come across my path that I didn't expect but popped into my life anyway as little gifts to remind me that life is what happens while you're making other plans because sometimes making those plans is just not making plans, right? It's moving in those plans. It's doing the work, and that work is not fun all the time. So we need what buffers, we need what makes it feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more tolerable, a little bit more acceptable, a little bit more fun, a little bit more joyous, right? And when we do that, right, then we're really making that headway, right? We're making that headway because we don't know what's going to happen in the next few minutes. And if we're always wondering what's going to happen in the next few minutes, or, oh my goodness, that bill, or, oh, I got to have that meeting, oh my goodness, I promised them I would do this. And then all of that's in your brain, and you're just turning yourself into, right, a big bundle of anxiety because you're not living right now, right? We are moving forward. Moving forward is the future, isn't it? But for the most part, right? It's air underneath our feet. It's air underneath our feet, and anything could trip us up in that. And at the same thing, anything can come into our lives and lighten that load, make it brighter, sunnier, funnier. And that's a truth. And so the resilience in that, right? The resilience is in that is doing that. Because as highly sensitives and as empaths, it's really not our nature, right? We like things to be safe. We like things to be organized. We want things to run smoothly. It's why we carry everybody's problems. It's why we do that problem solving, right? It's why we're just, I don't know, just moving along in making sure that everything is running smoothly is because we don't like those feelings of when things are not moving smoothly, right? We don't like those hiccups. We don't like those surprises. I like goal setting, right? It gives me something when I do look into the future, it gives me something to work towards. But in those lessons, I recognize, right? And in those failures and those things that don't show up when I work hard sometimes to try to make them show up, that's what trips us up, right? And it makes it so that we're not happy with what's going on in our lives in the moment, right? Yesterday, my legs hurt, right? But I had an adventure day and I walked 10 kilometers, right? I got home. I did have Charlie horses all night. I got to remember to just take in those non caffeine fluids when I spend that much time outside. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. But I did push myself, right? Well, number one, I didn't have a choice. I wasn't around a bus stop, so I had no choice but just keep walking or right walk in a direction that would get me to a main drag for a bus stop. But that's the resilience, right? That was my choice. I could have jumped on a bus when I had the opportunity. And I'm coming into your comments, Nancy. I can see you yibber yabbering away, and I know this is a topic that you can help a lot of people with. Okay, I'm going to actually stop right here for 1 second because I know Nancy's got something to contribute on this subject. Okay, really, instead of this, I'll keep my eye open for Jack in a Box. You're 100% right. I do like my props. I do like my props 100%. Life is in the Jack in a Box, right? Get kicked down, you pop back up. And that's what I was saying about Nancy, because Nancy has had a lot of struggles consistently, a lot of struggles in her life. But each one, she pops back in her resiliency, in her idea of never giving up, in her idea of you're not taking me down, or I'm not taking this, or I don't have anybody that's going to watch out for me. So I've got to watch out for myself, right? This isn't happening on my watch. And up she comes. Up she comes, and every single time. And sometimes she pops up through the kindness of others. But I think for the most part, it's that kindness to herself, that love for herself that she has. She is a great friend to herself, and she knows how to be that friend to herself. And I think each one of us has that opportunity to make that choice to be that friend for ourselves because life can be hard, right? Highly sensitives and empaths, we spend a lot of time on our own. We spend a lot of time in a state where we wonder why we're spending so much time alone. And because of our upbringings, right? Sometimes, quite often, we think it's our fault, but it's only because, well, we're just not around the right characters, the people who move with the kind of values that you have. People who recognize you, people, right? People who see you, people who hear you, right? For the most of the time, if you're anything like me, right? You just want to hang out with people. You just don't want to spend your life by yourself. So you'll adjust your personality. You'll chameleon yourself, right? You'll let your own self fall off to the side and you'll create somebody that might be a little bit more acceptable to that person in front of you just because you don't want to stand on your own 2 feet. Resiliency. Resiliency is the word we got this week. And I think a part of that is that ability to stand on your own 2 feet, to be your own decision maker, your own best friend, right? Your own bodyguard, to learn your resources, to learn your surroundings, to learn who your friends are, right? And to learn where your communities are and learn to enjoy that time with yourself, right? Because you're going to learn. You're probably going to spend quite a bit of time with yourself, right? Nobody knows Nancy like Nancy. Nobody can take care of Nancy like Nancy can take care of Nancy. Of course, we all have people around us who care for us and who will lift us up in our sad times, in our difficult times, right? And even in our good times. Everybody wants to be around somebody when they're happy and doing well, right? But are they willing to be around you, right? And you're just down, down, down. Because when you're really that low, it's the hardest thing to pull yourself up just to a level state. We're not talking a high state, just at a state where you're not down there anymore, right? And that's by making that movement. That is by taking in those lessons, being a little bit tough, maybe not sacrificing yourself and molding yourself into something that will suit somebody that truly doesn't suit you. You just didn't want to hang out with yourself. And, in the lessons, in the past half a dozen years or so, I'm being taught resiliency. I've been taught resiliency all my life. And we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow about resiliency in our childhoods, because this is where we learn to build that up, because resiliency comes hand in hand with courage. And these are lessons that we pick up in our very, very young years. We're talking before 7 years old. So resiliency, I'll talk in that directive tomorrow. But today, I just thought I'd bring it into attention, right? That evolution calls us to be resilient, right? We have been here for millions of years in truth, right? In truth. And that's no disrespect to any religion, because I do have people in my content who believe that we might be only 6 or 7 thousand years old. Maybe some of us are, right? Because what you believe in is realized. But for those that I'm moving with, right? We believe that we have been here for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, some more than others, some very recent, right? Sometimes we just walk into the characters' lives that we're expected to live. But if that were to happen, and it may have happened, I don't understand that in a recent form at the very least, but it happens as children, it could have happened to me, right? Could have happened to any one of us because it comes in those moments of extreme trauma. And sometimes we forget about, and it's not intentional. Sometimes it's just our ages, right? Sometimes, right, for myself, I don't remember much before 5 or 6 years old. And that's the truth. I have moments of recognition, right? But who's to say even in those moments of those recognizing and remembering those events that they're true because I'm experiencing them through the eyes of a child and not through the eyes of who I am now because it's in our perspectives, right? Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. So we just keep moving, right? And we buffer that movement. We buffer the difficult movement, right? And we don't want to go over exuberant and overconfident. So we should buffer that positive also to keep us at an even keel, to keep us in those realistic states so that we can absorb things properly, that we can understand things properly and be able to come up with a game plan for ourselves. Right? I think that's all the best that we can do for ourselves, right? Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. But I tell you, I don't know about you, we can easily dream a plan, but without putting that action behind it, it's only a dream. And we know that action is not going to be fun, right? Because when we dream, we can dream big. And usually we're dreaming about things for ourselves that we don't have. And in order to achieve what we don't have, quite often we have to do things we've never done before, never experienced before, never felt before, right? And that's difficult. And when you make that movement, slowly, we build up that resilience because that resilience is only the recognition, right? It's only the change that's coming into our systems, right? That builds up that resilience to take on more. How much more? I don't know. I'm sure it'll come across in the topics or in those words that we pick on Monday that maybe we might be able to delve into. I think it's an important topic that we should have a little bit of insight as to where we're going. I can say till I'm blue in my face that, right, we're creating the best human being we possibly can. But are we all doing that? I don't think so. But I'm trying to do my best for my part, right? Because that's my mission statement, right? Just like this is one of my mission statements. Life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. Another one is it takes all kinds to make the world, right? And the third one is I'm creating the best human being I possibly can. I think those are good goals, right? Good goals. And I think the lessons in those goals will be gooders. And not all fun, but because I enjoy what I'm doing, because it's rewarding me and I'm able to show up with those lessons and possibly somebody might pick them up, right? And I'll be able to pass on a second reward from that. And who knows, maybe you might pass that along down the road. Okay, I want to come in and read some of these comments here that Nancy is so generously talking about. Um, Attitude is everything when it comes to bouncing back. That's 100. That's 100% um, correct in that. I've seen that happen in my own life, and I've seen myself fall short of that too, and seen the repercussions of when I right when the attitude changed in that. So yeah, you're 100% right in Nancy in that. Okay, will you allow life to keep you down, or will you pop up and make yourself happy and not wall up in the misery? Again, Nancy, 100%. I usually call it whistle while you work, right? Don't cry over, don't cry over spilt milk. I don't like to say toughen up because I want us to stay soft in this process, and it's so easy to toughen up. It's so easy to go cold. It's so easy to turn your back and to just, right, just let it fall off to the wayside. And I would never wish that upon myself, and I would never want that for anybody else, right? But I do want to make sure that I'm enjoying what I'm doing along the way, that I'm enjoying the landscapes, that, in that buffering, that I'm bringing those little happinesses into my life. I go like this because whether it's a pink ice donut or, right, or go to have my uh, eclipse adventure day yesterday, or right, anything that I want to do, even in that accomplishing that makes me feel so good, right? I did 4 loads of laundry today. I got all my winter gear washed and ready to be put away till next winter. I got things done. I got the garbage taken care of, right? A little bit of socializing, and right? And that's all that we can, I'm not going to say hope for, because we can do so much as humans. We are capable of so much, but it's just how much do we want to, right, push on that. And that was funny because of that conversation that I had last night talking about pushing against what pushes against me. But that's because I want to, because there has been so much pushback in my life. There's been so much change in my life, not change that I sought out, but change I had to go along with. But in going along with that, like I said, I built up that resilience to change, that it's not so impactful when all of a sudden my landscape is totally flipped upside down and, right, I'm standing on my head, right? Change is not fun for the highly sensitive. It's not fun for the empaths. It's why we like the couch and the remote control. It's why we like the video games. It's why we like our addictions, right? It's why we are avoidant. It's all in that hypervigilance of our own safety, right? We are special needs, but so is every single person on this planet. Every single one of us is handicapped in some way. It's just with some people, it's more visible than in others. And to the degree, because, well, we all have lessons to different degrees. Not all of us have the Jack in the Box lesson down packed like Nancy does. But I am a student in that, Nancy, and I'm thinking I'm getting a little bit better and better with those kicks, right? And they're getting less and less and less. And that's the idea, until those kicks just disappear, right? And then, well, it's pretty good, right? Because maybe the handle broke, and that Jack in a Box is never going to get back in the box ever again, right? That clip on the lid is broken, the handle is gone, it just doesn't work. and that clown is just up there doing its thing. Okay, you guys, I think that's going to be my good cheer today. I know I do trail off, and I know when I get to that point, we are getting close to done. But I just want to come in. These comments coming from Nancy are very, very pertinent. So if you kind of want to take a look, if you pop in later into the conversation, follow in on Nancy. Nancy has been through a lot in her life. So much, ridiculously a lot, and continues to do so. But it's not because she's a negative person. Far from it, right? She has found ways creatively to pop up like that Jack in the Box she's talking about in the comments so many times. And I have been a spectator to that experience of hers, right? 100%. Okay, attitude is everything when it comes to bouncing back. Will you allow life to keep you down, or will you pop up and make yourself happy and not wall up in the misery, right? Misery loves company, and this Jack in the Box will pop up and kick the Grinch's butt, lol. And she would 100%. And the truth is, Nancy doesn't have one bone in her legs. And you know what? If she's determined, she would find a way 100%. Just watch it. She's going to be kicking that butt. Okay, no Grinches allowed with me. It takes only you to decide on your happiness and your resilience, right? Um, you can. I would say my resilience was instilled in me through my experience in my childhood, right? Go through 11 different elementary schools, you learn resilience pretty fast. You go through so many of these experiences that Nancy has gone through, you build up resilience pretty fast. You don't want the cushy life. You don't learn from the cushy life, right? What happens when the digital age crashes and you got a black screen on your phone? Who? What's going to happen in your life? Life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. Okay, you guys, I am ending my live now. Thank you, Nancy, for popping in. More thing, hang out with folks that will raise you up and not bring you down and get you in trouble, right? And that's a good piece of advice there too. It's who we surround ourselves with. Look at the people that are in your life, right? I've had some amazing characters in my life, but I've had some characters in my life that I only took on, right? Just because I wasn't willing to be a little bit more resilient and wait for characters that I more was suited to be hanging around with, right? Those people who would lift me up, like Nancy says. Okay, uh, you are never given more than you can handle. Another good, you're full of them. Good night, Nancy. Thank you so much for your input tonight. That was very kind of you, Nancy. Very nice of you to come in here and moderate my live tonight. Everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.